Hey folks, it's Grant Estrad here with Big Tough Farmer. I am out in the field today, sitting in the back of the pickup, taking a little bit of a breather. I've been thinking a lot about the period that we're going through in farming. My farming world is direct to consumer livestock, so that's what we do. There have been a lot of people that I've seen over the last 20 years romanticize getting into agriculture. And if we look back in history and the different paradigms and thought processes that have happened, like the Enlightenment and Industrial Revolution, some of these big human thought cycles that we've gone into. If you look at the art world, there was a phase that was called Romanticism, right? And so it was an ideal version of the things that were. And so, if you look at the paintings from the Romantic time period, it's kind of, it portrays a lot of happiness and a lot of other things going on. A lot of the hero myth, victory, success. And then later on, after the Romanticism period, then we get into the Realist period. And if you look at some of the artwork from the Realist period, it actually portrayed how life actually was. There's one portrait called The Gleaner where it's a bunch of peasants. They're all stooped over and they're at the grain crop, but they're actually going through and they're picking up the grain that was not harvested by the farmers who actually did the initial harvest. So they're gleaning the crop. They're picking up all the waste for them to use. And so that was probably more of a practical perspective of what was actually happening during that time period. And if we look at especially at the direct-to-consumer, back to land, organic, regenerative, sustainable farming, we can kind of follow the same pattern. There was a huge romantic period of back to the land, and then there was like a realist period where people actually started getting into production agriculture. They realized that they were going to have to start selling stuff, and that kind of birthed, and this is my opinion, the direct-to-consumer ag market, and that's when the terms organic were coined and made legal trademarks, and all these things happened. And then there was a huge romantic period with it, and then people started getting into direct-to-consumer farming. I will admit that I got caught up early on in the romantic cycle of getting back into agriculture, but I was fortunate enough to have had a mini agricultural business when I was in high school. So I understood, costs and labor and mortality and, shit happens that's out of your control. And so I was fortunate enough to have that a little bit experience and taste in my mouth of what can actually happen. And so what we've seen, especially, pre-COVID, during COVID, and a little bit post-COVID, we saw kind of like the romantic flare back up, and it happened very quick, and we came crashing back down to a realist period in the direct-to-consumer world. Inflation, a lot of competition, not so much from your peer group, not so much from your fellow farmers, but I was on the Whole Foods website today, otherwise known as now Amazon, and I was looking at our local Whole Foods here that's closest to us, the biggest one, and I was looking what they were selling, organic eggs for, and organic beef for, and organic pork for, and it's the prices were higher than other grocery stores, but we all know that especially the organic eggs that were being sold for $2.99 a dozen, we all know that those are the same garbage, kind of packed into the holistic label, right? And so it was a factory egg, with the organic on it. And so that was $2.99. So if we have customers who are coming to us, buying our, $6.50 eggs, because we're doing rotationally, pastured, real life, outdoor, true blue pastured eggs, they may very well just fall for the myth that's marketing across the board, and that's everywhere. And so that's a very realist thing that we're dealing with and putting up with. And so what's the at the end of the day, what's the answer? How do we balance the romantic, and then how do we balance the realist? Because we all want to work towards the ideal, but we need to be practical. And so what is the the Venn diagram? Where does it meet? Where does realism meet with romanticism? And I've been thinking on that the past couple of days, and I think that the best solution that I could possibly come up with to merge romanticism with realism is our tools that we have available to us, our training that we have available to us, and the habits available to us. And so, we can be romantic people and live within the ideal and aspire towards the ideal, but we know that we can't, invest upon the romantic gut feeling, because we can just lose our ass on a bad investment. And so there's things that we want to do at the farm right now where we could just absolutely throw all of our resources into it on the hope that there's an acceptable ROI, return on investment, but it may not happen. So we can't just be romantic about it. We have to be realist about it. So we have to go to our tools. So what's the market like? What's the cost of production? How many units of production do we need to have in order for it to be profitable? Do we need to buy any equipment? Whatever. Like all of these practical things, we have to ground ourselves. And we don't want to be negative, Nancy, Debbie Downer realists and say, life is awful and it's hard and we're just groveling. There's no point in trying. But then again, we can't be, on cloud nine, completely blinded by our own idealism. And so we have to check our emotions, because they're going to sway. One day you're going to be romantic about the farm, and one day you're going to be a realist about the farm. One day you're going to want to quit. One day you're going to want to go buy more acreage, all within the same week. And so we just have to sit back and ground ourselves and utilize the tools that we have at our disposal and our habits. And so the way that we have, create these good habits, learn how to use these good tools, is through training. And then you can go to a course, you can get a book, you can geek out on YouTube videos. But whatever it is that you do, you absolutely have to do it. And with that, you also need to be careful on where you go out and you get the information. Me putting this information out to you right now, it's not costing you anything other than your time. And it's not costing me all that much because I'm sitting on the back of the tailgate, taking a little bit of a break. So I'm just doing this instead of just staring at a tree, I guess. And so, but if you go out there and you're about to go and spend some money on finding those tools, those habits, that education to get that training, just vet the person that you're getting that training from, because they could be such a realist that they're going to make you quit, or they're going to be such a romantic that they're going to hype you up and pump you up so much that you're going to go out and you're going to make a really, really bad fucking mistake. And so you have to be very careful with where you get your information from, um, and always trust but verify. Big on the verification part. And so there are some red flags whenever you go out and you get information, from somebody else. Um, if they have never done what they're trying to teach you to do, then everything that they're talking about is theoretical. In the farming world, in the direct to consumer farming world, a lot of folks start a farm because they're romantic about it, um, and then realism sets in, and they end up realizing that what they're trying to do is going to be very difficult, and so they pivot, and that's fine. They pivot into other areas. So they may shut the farm down, and they may start buying from farms on a wholesale basis and reselling it. They might set up the value add meat market, the butcher shop, the food co-op. So they become a distributor, reseller, broker of farm goods, because they want to participate still in the community, but they have to switch gears, and that's fine. We need people. We need people doing the farming. We need people doing the selling. We need people helping with distribution, and so we need all those players, and so they segue into other roles. Life happens to them, and they pivot and they change course based upon their context. Other folks end up shutting their farm down and quitting, but then they go into the romantic, idealistic, training other farmer world, and coaching and consulting. And so we got a message from one of these folks last week. It was a cold call, and I asked him, I don't like cold calls. If somebody calls us to try to sell us something and they don't ask the number one question of, do you have time to talk, or or whatever, if they don't ask us what our situation is, and they assume that we want to talk to them, that's an automatic red flag for me, because I never do 101 cold calling. Is that you never you never disturb or harass somebody or waste their time. I'm very sensitive to that as a salesperson. And then also the other things that before you call a prospect in the cold calling world, especially in a specialized market, you have to do research for that person and on that person or that company. Research is easier to do than it's ever been. I mean, you can look on people's LinkedIn profiles, find their Facebook page. If they have a YouTube channel, you can go to their company website. They might have a blog, so you can take 30, 45 minutes and really kind of start picking up what makes this person or this group of people or this company click. And so you can try to understand their perspective and their context and their ethos. So that way, when you make that call, offering, to fix a problem, offer a solution to their problem. That's what we do in sales, is that we offer solutions to people's problems. You actually know what, is going on. Anyway, this person did not do that. And I could pretty much promise you that, our farm and our business is bigger than his business. And so it was a case of somebody who did not have legitimate professional criteria. They did not have any of their own proof of concept. They just had the positive, romantic, typical hype that bullshit salespeople have. And I gave him a little rope to hang himself with. I wanted to see kind of like what this person was made up a little bit, and I was and they're full of shit, and I told them that they were full of shit. And he didn't come back with, hey, these are the habits and these are the tools I'm offering you. There was no, hey, this is my training program. his rebuttal as a salesperson was, I'm sorry you feel that way. And, if you don't have faith, or if you don't have belief, or, I understand that you're skeptical. A lot of people are skeptical. That's the language of a con artist. And so, and the funny thing is that, again, we can kind of like watch people and see how they behave. And so shortly after we had that back and forth conversation, he posted on his own social media that recently a farmer told him he was full of shit. And so I was kind of amazed that he even brought it up on his own social media. He didn't name, me specifically, but I thought that was, very interesting. That he brought that up. And so what he's trying to do is that he's trying to get people to kind of be on his side and say, can you believe this other farmer, told me that I was full of shit, and blah, blah, blah. But he still didn't really state, what his tools were, what his process was, or what he was actually offering. And so I have no idea what he offers. I have no idea what the guy charges. I just know that he's kind of trying to just sell this idea or this concept. And so, unfortunately, when you get people who want to get into agriculture, and they go into agriculture with a romantic perspective, and they encounter somebody who's selling a romantic product, then they're going to purchase that romantic product. And then at some point, realism is going to set in, and then they're going to be like, holy shit, like, what is happening? And so, so just be really careful where you go out and you get your information. And while I offer consulting and mentoring and coaching, most of the people that I talk to do not typically want to work with me because I don't want to spend a lot of time with them, and I just want to get right to the root cause of things. And I have told people that, hey, you know what, like, based upon your situation, my opinion is, and it's just my opinion, is that you should not go out and establish any type of farm. You should partake in the farming community in another capacity. And it depends on their situation. I've said that to people, and they did not like what I had to say, because what they were looking for was an echo chamber of their romanticism. So they said, hey, Grant, I want to be able to do this. And I say, that's great that you want to do that. And I think that's an achievable goal. However, it's going to take, XYZ. This is your XYZ situation and context and available resources. Don't you think that maybe you should look at doing some things in some other areas? And people, they've literally asked me, why are you asking so many questions? And so, again, me as a professional salesperson, I'm a solution-oriented type salesperson, otherwise known as an assisted buyer. I'm going to tell you if what you're wanting to buy is going to be good for you or bad for you, and I'm going to give you just all the options. And so I'm not the type of person to be an echo chamber, for anybody. And so I'm an empathetic. I try to be an empathetic listener and ask strategic questions and provoke thought and do a lot of those things. And that's not what, unfortunately, people who are in a romantic mindset are looking for. And so my message to you, if you made it to the end of this segment, is if you are in a romantic mindset, make sure you partner with somebody who is in a realist mindset to balance off that romanticism. And so so that way you can establish the tools, the habits, and the training to ground yourself to be able to engage in and prepare for a long-term project, because that's what any farm is going to be. It's going to be a long-term project. So that's my message for you today. I hope everybody has a good one. If you have any thoughts or comments, please put them in the comment section. And if you like this material, subscribe and also share it with your friends and family. Maybe it can save you guys a bunch of money and help y'all make a good or bad decision. Hope y'all have a good one.